topic. We're just showing up. So for those who are new to my channel, my name is Ashley Bloxham. I'm a therapist. I specialise in childhood and trauma. I'm also an addictions counsellor. I specialise, I've already said that, I specialise in counselling and childhood, which I think everybody who comes to counselling has, childhood issues. But I've studied addiction right the way up to PhD level, and if I haven't said it already, I've overcame it. So let's get cracking. So today I've not got any particular topic. I'm just showing up because that's what we do, even on hard days. So my son, also I'm very late, my son who usually goes to bed by 9 just refused to go to bed. So I just thought I'd pop on, although I'm not sure if anyone is listening, and maybe on the replay because it's normally on 17 minutes earlier. So yeah, today's been a bit of a difficult day, and we'll all have difficult days, and we'll all get things thrown at us in life, which is rubbish and it's hard to do, but that doesn't mean that you don't show up. And I think with addiction recovery, this is especially true. I think when my early stages of recovery, what I used to do is I would use a bad day as an excuse to relapse. Kind of secretly loved a bad day. I was like, oh, now I've got an excuse. But actually, some of the harshest things I've dealt with came about during my beginning of my recovery, and it was really difficult, and I had every excuse to relapse. But actually, I just thought, no, I've not got an excuse this time because I'm going to do it. And you get this kind of fire in your stomach where you think, okay, I'm gunning for this, and it doesn't matter what life throws it is, I'm going to do it anyways. And if you can push through that and just keep going, even though life is throwing a ton of shit your way, then you start to realise, actually, I've done that. That was pretty canny good to be able to do that. So you feel really good about yourself. And it's really, you start to get to a point where you inspire yourself, because you had every reason to give up, you had every reason to stop, and you chose not to. So yeah. Anyways, I'm noticing none of me normal people who would come on is here because I have turned up late. But main thing is I showed up, and if you're watching this on replay, I just want to say, if you are in addiction recovery, I know that life can be hard sometimes, and I know the first thing you want to do is go to a relapse, especially when you're in the early stages. Oh, Barry Benz, that is a bit... No, thank you, please. If you are going through something hard and you're in the earlier stages of recovery, I just want you to know these are the points, if you can get through, where you're going to find out what you're made of. And I know that we love a good excuse to relapse, but that doesn't mean that you should, because actually if you don't, you're going to be so fucking proud of yourself. And I know that I had 1,000,001 reasons to relapse in my early stages, but I just showed up, and you don't have to do amazing, you just have to turn up and just keep pushing through. So yeah. Anyway, what's today's, yesterday's, tomorrow? I don't know, but I've just shown up because Barry needs Jesus. I think Barry does need Jesus, but I'm just showing up today because, like, that's what I have to do. We just have to show up. But if there is anyone who wants any questions, who has any questions, I am happy to answer. Do I believe in hypnosis? Yeah, absolutely. So I studied a little bit of hypnosis in my counselling training. I did like an extra course. You have to do something called CPD in counselling, and it's continued practice. I can't remember what it even stands for. CPD, it's like basic, continued practice development, I think it is. And I did one on hypnosis, and essentially it's a little bit like, you get yourself, it's like delta waves. So you get somebody to access like a really low level state where you're just really calm and you can talk to your subconscious. And my nan, she actually quit smoking through hypnosis. But there's a lot of research, and there's actually research around addiction recovery and hypnosis, which is really promising as well. So yeah, I do believe in it. It's not as woo-woo as it sounds. It's actually, there's a lot of clinical studies behind it. So yeah. So yeah, that might be an option. You can actually get hypnosis for addiction on YouTube. So yeah, and there was, I know somebody who did CBT and addiction recovery, but they weren't ready to stop addiction. They didn't want to go there. They just went because they had to. So it's actually a thing where you can do the two together. I, as for sure, says I've subscribed. Keep up the good work. Thank you. I'm glad I've got a subscriber. I didn't want to turn up tonight, but you've just got to keep going. So, and also my son just wouldn't go to bloody sleep. So I'm so late. Paul, that is kind of scary but interesting. Yeah, it sounds scary because you're kind of putting, it's up to the person what they're doing, but like you need to trust the person who you're doing it. But hopefully if someone's qualified, but I wouldn't say, look, if you go into hypnosis for addiction recovery, I mean, I don't think they can do more harm than good, literally. Like you're already doing the worst in terms of addiction. I don't think they can make it worse. It's definitely worth a shot. And I think like doing it from every angle is the way to attack it. Did you also master dark psychology? What do you mean by dark psychology, Bats? Do you mean by integrating your shadow aspects? Barry, hypnosis is for people who continuously repeat the same thing over and over. Yeah, it is. It's just a circuit break, and it's, you know, we're all acting out of patterns. So realistically, regardless which way you do it, you've got to change your brain. You've got to change your brain patterns. That's not a technical term, but we have to change what we're doing, and that comes from changing our beliefs, our behaviors, our thoughts and our actions. So whatever way you do that, whether that's just day in, day out, chipping away at it like I did, that was just showing up and trying to challenge my thoughts, rewrite how I viewed my past and learning to love myself. You can do it like slowly but surely like I did it, or you could do things like hypnosis, you can do havening is another way of doing it. There's lots of different things, and you know there's research around psychedelics doing it, but obviously that's not been introduced yet, psychedelic assisted therapy. But I would say just do whatever the hell you can. There's so many different avenues you can go down for addiction recovery, and just try it all. Do everything at once. Your accent, are you British? I am. I'm very British. English Rose over here. Tyrone is saying, are you okay? I am, yeah. I've had a bit of a bad day actually today, but oh God, I've had worse days. So anytime I have a bad day, like I've came through addiction, like I've had worse days. So I always just tell myself that. It puts it into perspective. I think of a worse day and it makes things feel better. And also the fact that I got over that worst day. We have survived 100% of our worst days. So Paul is saying neuro-linguistic programming. Yep, that neuro-linguistic programming is really good. There's a lot of debate around it in counselling, but I think it's really good. And the therapist who taught me, who trained me, they specialise in NLP, which is short for neuro-linguistic programming. But essentially it talks about this idea that the words we tell ourselves are super important, and that's reflected in loads of different types of therapy and psychology, that it's so important, the narrative we tell ourselves. And that's where hypnosis can be helpful, because it can help change the narrative. Oh, my lights went off. Lights went off, it's still home, so winning. Daniel is saying microdosing. Yeah, I know loads of people who've done microdosing. The thing is, I've got bipolar, so I would be worried about, you don't know if, I didn't find out I had bipolar, and I've got type 1, which means I get psychosis. I didn't realise that I had that until I was 33. So you don't know what's going on underneath. You don't know if you've got like underlying schizophrenia or something. So that's the thing where I'd be worried about microdosing, is because a lot of the time it's not done in a clinical context. But I do know people who've done it and it has been life-changing. So I don't want to, I don't want to sit here and be naive about the situation. But I also don't want to promote something that actually could do more harm than good with certain people, myself included. Go to school, stupid system anymore, don't teach how can we acquire a lot of money. Yeah, I don't think the schools could teach that. Um I think, to be honest with you, there's so many, it's all changing. Like, there's so much stuff online that you can do now. I mean, I'm writing a book, I'm doing it with AI. That, like, everything's changing so fast that it just couldn't even be taught as a curriculum at school at this point. Wonderful is saying, hello, lady. Hi from Wallsend. Oh my God, I used to go to the Bark and Dog in Wallsend all the time. I used to love it. I used to get wrecked in the Bark and Dog all the time. Probably wouldn't love it now. Right, when you eat spicy food, do you burp fire? I does not agree with my stomach. I've got IBS. Extra British introverted banana saying, yeah, extra British. But a hi to wonderful horseshoe from Wallsend as well. Sorry, I didn't say hi to you. Move out of your parents' house, Larry's saying. I've lived by myself since I was 16. I've long moved out of my parents' house. I'm nearly 37. This year I'll be 37 in March. How do I get a job after sobering up? Angel, Carlo, Hop. I think one of the good things with sobering up is, one, you know that you've got what it takes to put your all and everything into something, because I've never put so much fucking effort into something as I did getting a score. That's for sure. Also, my life was flipped upside down. So you have an opportunity where you get to decide, okay, I've got a chance to recreate my identity. What do I want to do? And I've literally, my life's been at rock bottom. So I might as well choose which direction I'm going to travel up from the ground. So I would say, Angel, Carlo, Harp, think about what it is that you really want to do. And just whatever it is you want to do, just work day in, day out towards getting it. And I think settling for a job might not be the right move for you. Maybe you go for a career. Maybe you do something you've always wanted to do. My friend, she makes Chihuahua dog clothes. Like, she just started making dog leads, really shit ones, started selling them online, and she's got a full business and she lives her best life now doing that. My grandpa used to say to us, you need to have a job that you enjoy and you need to have a good mattress, because they're the two things that you spend most of your life doing and you only live once. So I would take this time while you're trying to get a job to think about what is it that you really want to do. Paul's saying, I'm planning to start a cult, so looking for master hypnosis. I mean, go learn hypnosis first. Oh, God. Right, I think you are stunning and brave. Thank you, Pete. I don't feel brave doing this. I think I've already done me stint of brave. Now everything feels easy. Like I say, addiction recovery, there's not much which you don't have to be more brave than having to get sober. That's for sure. So once you've done that, everything else just feels a bit easier. Your view on developing / integration of ego as talked by classical thinkers like Jung and Freud. Yeah, I love Freud's version of the ego. I think it's probably one of the most accurate versions of the ego. So Freud talks about this idea that we have like an id, he calls it, which is basically our innate what's the word? Like wants and desires. So that's your id. It's like your childlike. It's like what you initially want. It's like those inner things. And then on the other side, you've got the super ego. And this is basically this ego which we create to fit into society. And he says that the ego's job is to navigate between these two things, because we're always getting pulled between what we really want and think inside versus what we think is acceptable. And he says if you have an overdeveloped id or an overdeveloped super ego, we're going to struggle in life. So we have to have balance between that. So if you've got an overdeveloped super ego, you're going to be a people pleaser. If you've got an overdeveloped id, you're just going to be selfish. And either way, you're going to struggle in life. So it's about balancing. And I always think of this saying of, it's not always about me, but it's not never about me. So yeah, I really do like that idea. And I think we have to accept that you know, we can't get rid of our ego. We all have an ego, and it's about working with the ego and using the ego to having an ego which is aware of all our shadow aspects, all the things that we want to hide. And the thing is, if we don't address things about ourselves, it leaks out. So, for instance, say we see ourselves as a very nice person, and we're very nice and we don't ever say anything wrong, so we don't ever want to hurt people's feelings. Well, actually, it's going to leak out sideways. We're going to end up being the person who is passive aggressive, the person who says they're fine but really thinking you're a cunt. So, you know, we might think we're nice, but we're not being nice. We're being inauthentic, and essentially we're lying to people. We're not telling them the truth of what we think. So it's really important that we address these shadow sides of ourselves. Like, we don't need to be nice. We can also have boundaries, and we can also say how I feel, but we can be kind whilst doing it. So yeah, that's my thoughts on integration of ego. Because if you don't integrate it, it just leaks out. It just leaks out, and because you're ignoring it yourselves. Paul, did drugs trigger the bipolar? No. So my psychiatrist said that basically when we mapped out my life, though I was had stints of being really depressed and suicidal at a very young age, 17, 16 maybe, 16, 17. And that's the normal time that bipolar starts to present. So bipolar is a gene, but childhood triggers it. So my childhood triggered the fact that I've got that gene. So I just had the perfect storm for those genes to be activated. If anything, I think the drugs helped because it kept my brain, it kept my brain kind of flat. I've been struggling with bipolar a lot more since I've came out of addiction and all my mental health disorders. I've got ADHD and autism as well, but I've learned to manage it, so in a much healthier way than with drugs. And the drugs helped in the short term, they didn't in the long term, so I just want to add that. 4 years sober from meth and heroin, that's fucking immense. I'm nearly 4 years sober as well, not as hefty as meth and heroin because that is fucking solid, but I'm be 4 years sober in February the 3rd, so very close. What's your top tip then for everyone who's listening who might be in active addiction? Hi to India Pro. Tyrone, are you married? I am not married, no. What are you drinking? It's a sleep tea. I don't promote for them, but I just genuinely like it. It's Bird and Blend. They do a really nice sleep tea called Moon Drops. It just tastes luscious, smells really nice. Tyrone, are you a teacher? No, I'm not a teacher. I'm a therapist. It's called School of Addiction because I've been schooled in addiction, but I've also studied it up right the way up to PhD level. So I'm just here to share everything that I know from personal experience, working with people in addiction and also studying it to PhD level. Paul, how do I know when I'm being authentic or putting on a mask? First of all, we have to get comfortable with challenging ourselves. So it's really hard to know if we're wearing a mask or being inauthentic if we're not stopping to if we're not stopping to, what's the word? My brain's not working tonight, guys. If we're not stopping to assess ourselves, like we need to have some kind of relationship with ourselves first. That's probably a better way to say it. So get to know yourself. So stop and ask yourself, how did you feel after that interaction? How do you really feel about that person? Or how do I feel about my job? How do I feel about what I just said and did that feel icky? And did I really mean that? So a lot of the times what I used to do as a people pleaser is I would say like yes to everything so much, and I would do everything so much that I felt like I wanted to do it, but I was building resentment with pretty much everyone in my life. I was just getting so angry at everyone. And when you stop to assess it, how do I actually feel about this? Do I feel annoyed? Then that you're probably wearing a mask. And Another way is, am I really happy or am I just going along with this? Like, ask yourself, just keep asking yourself that question. And you can do this by journaling every night. Just get to know yourself. And look, sometimes I still wear masks. We're naturally going to want to fit in with people. And we naturally put on masks. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm 100% authentic 100% of the time. That would be unrealistic. But the more I check in with myself and get to know myself and love myself unconditionally, the less masks I wear. The Solitude Soul, hi, nice to see you. Being authentic is providing a medium for others to see themselves fully without any constraints. What do you mean by medium, soul, Solitude Soul? Can you explain that in layman terms for us? Because I didn't quite understand what you meant. Oh, thank you, Sham. Oh, nice to see you again, Sham, actually. This is your second time being mod here, isn't it? Yeah, I'm going to pin that comment. Thanks, Sham. You are a strong person, Paul. Yeah, I wasn't, though. We all can become strong. I wasn't strong. I've just learned to be strong. It's resilience. And this is the best thing about addiction recovery. I would not be the resilient, strong person I am today if it wasn't for that. Because you have to go to war with yourself. And it's like that with mental health. You know, like my bipolar, it's not been easy dealing with bipolar, but you have to go to battle with yourself because nobody else is going to do it. You know, addiction isn't our fault. Mental health isn't our fault. Actually, a lot of it is down to childhood and trauma and just shitty things and experiences that we all have to deal with. But when you decide, okay, I'm either get taken down by it or I stand up and I face it head on, you get strong. You've got no other choice. I saw this thing saying, if you see us thriving, don't think this was plan A, this was plan Z. AKA, like, I didn't mean to be strong. I had no choice. So, yeah, everybody can be strong. If you just go to war with yourself, you will get strong. And everyone has to go to war against themselves. Everybody's had shit in their life. Like, there's very few people who get through life unscathed. You speak so fast. I've got ADHD. I'm actually better at it. My ADHD, I am a lot more in control of it, but I do speak really fast. And also, I'm quite passionate. So when I get passionate, I get excitable. Paul is saying, can you explain boundaries? Yeah, boundaries are an action. A lot of people think that boundaries are words, like, don't do this, don't do that. That's not a boundary, that's a request. Boundaries are actions. So if you're going to put in a boundary, you can give words. You can say, look, this is what I need. So boundaries are a blueprint for how we want to be treated. So this is what I need to feel safe and secure and for this relationship to work, whether that's friendship, co-workers, romantic. So this is what I need. And the request is saying what you need. And you might want to give a warning and say, if that doesn't happen, then I'm going to have to leave. But the boundary itself is the action, so that is the leaving. Or it could be, it's like, it's doing something. So it could be, an example is, I don't like it when you raise your voice at us, it makes us feel uncomfortable. So if you continue, this is the boundary, I'm going to have to leave. That's the request. So you've told them the boundary is I'm going to have to leave. If they continue to raise the voice, leave. That's the boundary. And, you know, it might be if someone's in addiction, I love you and I'm rooting for you and I'm not judging you, but as you're in active addiction, it's hurting us. So I'm going to have to take a step back, and the boundary is taking the step back. And you can do an empathetic assertion, which is, you know, always be considerate and empathize with the other person. But realistically, you have to put in boundaries because people are just going to, if you allow somebody to walk all over you, they will continue to walk all over you. So, yeah. And the people who, you know, the people who love you, realistically, will respect your boundaries. So it could be a lot less than that. It could just be without thinking about addiction, like I'm just not gonna come out for a drink because I'm not gonna come out tonight because you're gonna be drinking and I don't want to drink. That's a boundary. I'm not coming out tonight and you don't come out tonight. And if people don't like that and they don't respect your boundaries, then they're not necessarily the right people for you. So I hope that was a good explanation for you. But let us know if it didn't make sense. Barry, the drugs actually does make one more aware of themselves if they didn't fully become submerged in that way of life. Yeah, I started to become aware of myself and started to heal when I was still an addict. So there's this preconception that you need to stop the addiction and then you need to heal. But actually, if you're not ready to stop the addiction, I would say heal. Start working on yourself and becoming self-aware. And you'll get to a place, hopefully, where you're ready to stop. So start to heal with the intention that this is part of my recovery starts now. It doesn't necessarily need to be removing the addiction. And yeah, addiction can help you become self-aware. Do I know robust? No, I don't. I can't even say it. Is it nice? Solitude says, we as humans have long sought to find something we can hold on to, something that we can call familiar, but today's relationships are like drugs, meant to temporarily create this sense. Yeah. The thing is, though, as well, I'm like, for me, I'm a little home bird. Like, I want to be, when I'm ride or die for people, like any people in my life. And the thing is, you know, it is about working at relationships. We have to, but you also need two people who are going to work at a relationship. So, and you need two people who are going to be ride or die, or do you know what I mean? So I think also what the problem is even if you are someone, which I feel like you are, Solitude, from speaking to you, who is ride or die in relationships, and you know, don't treat relationships like temporary or people like temporary. But if you've got the other person who isn't meeting you there, who is disrespecting you, then sometimes you have to also treat a relationship like temporary. Because the only thing worse than not being in a relationship, which isn't that bad to be honest, but one thing worse than not being in a relationship, if that is your goal, is being in a relationship where you're just not seen and heard and respected. And that's the sad truth. A lot of people are disrespectful of other people, especially in dating. As for sure, by the way, you don't look 36/37-ish. You give 20 vibes. I think it's me energy. Forever a child. Never land over here. But thank you. When I try to be authentic, I hurt people's feelings. Joe Lucky. Yeah, some people don't want you to be. I saw something and it was saying about the only people who have problem with your boundaries are the people who were benefiting from you having none. And that's so true. So you will get a portion of people who don't like you being authentic and don't like you putting in boundaries because it was actually much better for them when you were a pushover. However, I will say some people do, and I was very careful about this because it's really hard thing to do when you've never done something before. It's really hard to get it right first time. Sometimes when we've never had boundaries, we can go the other way and just put in boundaries all the time. So it can always be like, for instance, say you've got plans with people and you're constantly saying no and letting them down. That, because that's like, I'm putting in a boundary, but actually you're actually just now just being a little bit of a dick. So it's really important that when we have boundaries that we try and think about the other person first. So always try and think about empathetic boundaries, and always bear in mind it's not always about me, but it's not never about me. So try and get a win-win, unless it's something where somebody's been a bit of a dick. So yeah, it could be maybe there's a bit of struggle in boundaries, or maybe the people were just benefiting from you having none. And also authenticity, which is slightly different, although I think the two sides of the same coin, boundaries and authenticity. If people don't like our authenticity, it's often because it's shining light on the fact that they aren't authentic. The amount of people who like grief me for being authentic, and I'm like, well, you're just doing it because you're too scared to step out of the box. So maybe you're also highlighting parts in themselves where they're not being authentic and they don't like that mirror that you're holding up. So yeah, I'd say it's more about them, unless we need to some practice on boundaries. Hey, speak slowly, please. I can't. I'm ADHD, and the thing is, it's a real struggle for us to mask. Like for me to try and slow down my speech, my brain just works super fast. So I'm sorry if you can't keep up for us, but I'm sure there's lots of other YouTubers who speak slower. But it's actually painful for us to mask, so I can't do that. Your description of the mask is to how I describe my journey of self-awareness beyond people's sheep level awareness. It's like being on top of a mountain but bravely deciding to descend back down. Yeah, and the thing is, just because everybody's doing something, talking about that sheep mentality, doesn't mean that we have to, but the other sheep are going to be like, whoa, where's that sheep going? The herd's going this way. But the thing is, I used to be a sheep as well. It's really hard taking off masks. It's really scary. But the more you do it, the easier it becomes. It's like anything. You've worked hard, school. Again, patience of a saint. Hi, Christopher. How are you doing? Nice to see you again. Yeah, it was sort of, I am quite a patient person. I'll tell you sometimes, though, not that patient with my 4-year-old son, although still very patient. He definitely tests it. Tyrone, I look nice today. I feel like shite today. I'm so tired, and yeah, I've been having personal things which I'm not going to talk about, but I have spoke about it at the beginning that I have them because I just wanted to show up anyways, because I think with addiction recovery we just have to show up even if times are hard. Right, Barry, most of the audience that you're trying to reach will never fully appreciate the work that you're doing. That's why many will continue to struggle, but you're doing a good job. Thanks, Barry. Do you know what it is? I had someone messages the other day and it made me heart bleed. They said to us, I've been watching your channel and I'm 21 days sober thanks to you. And I just thought, do you know what it is? Even if it's helping one person, that is like, what a life to be able to do that. So feeling blessed. But yeah, thank you for that. Daniel Gannon, how are you doing? One of my OJs. True comes a point where you just drive down a dead end and you're forced to be strong. Yeah, that's it. You've got no other choice for it to be strong. Or relapse. Which, I mean, you've got to be pretty fucking hardcore to live a life of addiction as well. And you're going to have to be strong either way. So you might as well be strong and on the way up instead of strong and on the way down. What is that metal or noise? Oh, it might be me aura ring clicking. But if ASMR that nobody asked for. Christopher nearly ended up back in prison tonight. This stuff helps massively. Oh, thank you. I mean, I hope that you don't end up in prison again. But why don't we have a one-to-one, Christopher? But I'm glad it's helpful. Thanks, Sham, for holding the comments section. The world. You need to be you, that's it. Yeah, just be you. And the problem is, and I don't know if anyone else has experienced this, I didn't know who me was. I was so bent and contort into what everybody else wanted from us that I just didn't know who I was. So when people used to say just be you, I didn't even know where to start. So for me, I just started with, do I actually want to do that or do I not? It's a good question. Like, follow what brings you joy, and that's a good place to find out who you are and what you're about. Does setting boundaries stop us getting hurt a lot deeper? Yeah, I'll give you a perfect example. So you stayed in a relationship and I didn't set boundaries, because remember, boundaries are actions, not words. I just used to use words, requests, and think they were boundaries, and then just make the same requests over and over again. And I ended up staying, not putting in the boundaries, and we're so scared. The boundary was I needed to leave. It wasn't right. I'm not saying he was a bad person, but it wasn't right. And instead of leaving the relationship, I ended up staying and staying and staying because I was scared to get hurt. And now I'm a single mom. That is a lot more painful than if I'd just walked away. a lot more painful. And it's not just painful for me. Well, it was painful for me, but it was also now painful for my son. And I have to deal with my son's pain of it day in, day out when he's saying, I miss my daddy. And I know that that's on me. It's because I didn't put that boundary in. So yeah, boundaries stop us from getting hurt a lot deeper. And it probably stops the other person from getting hurt a lot deeper as well, because there's only so many times we can get our boundaries, like getting our request ignored before we snap and put the boundary in anyways. So boundaries are the blueprints for how we need to be treated. And if somebody can't treat us the way that we need to be treated, then it's best to walk away. Take a step back. It doesn't need to be walk away always. It can be take a step back in some way. What was I addicted to? You go, I was addicted to ketamine. My psychiatrist said I was addicted to mind-altering substances because I was just a massive wreckhead. But I was addicted to ketamine. That was the one that really got us. It was fucking awful. Christopher's saying heroin and alcohol. That is the worst addictions that you could have. It's been categorized by David Nutt as like heroin is number one. I would argue though that the alcohol is it's a really hefty addiction I have to deal with for different reasons. And the fact you've managed to get off heroin, Christopher, I mean, some boy. Paul, what risk falling in love if it requires lowering boundaries and risking a lot of pain? Why risk falling in love? Because, do you know what it is? I've got the right people in your life. You won't have to put the boundaries in, or you'll put in the little boundaries. Like, for instance, I said, you know, you can put in little boundaries and they'll respect them, but you just put in the request. You don't have to get as far. Do you know what I mean? And they'll respect you. I mean, the people who I love in my life, I don't really have to put boundaries in with them. I actually don't. I just say that I don't like that. This is why. It's not about you. I love you, but you know, I don't like that. And they just tend to listen. And if they don't, then we'll come up with a compromise, you know. And just because some people ignore you doesn't mean that everybody's going to be like that. There's some really lush people in the world, and I like to think of myself as one. So I remind myself that if I'm struggling to find lush people, it's not that they don't exist, because I exist. So there's got to be other people who have done the inner work and who are kind and manage to keep the heart in a big, scary, hard world. It's just sometimes harder to find those people. But that doesn't mean don't look. Don't have love in your life. I think that's really sad. We all deserve love and light in our life. Can I ask you a question? Yeah, of course you can, Men's. Messinaldo, actually. Zookeeper, you're amazing, thank you. Worst thing being alone is being worse than being alone is being lonely. Yeah. My phone's gonna die. Yeah, it is. I mean, we're social creatures. We're not supposed to be alone. We need love in our life. We do. And it doesn't need to be romantic relationships, but we need love in our life. We need to trust people. We really do. And one thing I'd say is just work on discernment. And, you know, your body tells you well before anybody else does. When you get that instant feeling of that's not right, I feel icky, I didn't like what that person did, just don't ignore it. And don't let yourself get to the point where they can really hurt you. Just walk away. Real recognises real, David Gannon. Yeah, I've got such a good gauge on people now. I really do. Real does recognise real. And look, real people can still hurt you, but we have to trust people, but we have to trust ourselves enough. We have to trust ourselves first. We have to love ourselves as well. If you love yourself and you trust yourself, and that's a practice, if you're not there, just keep practicing at it, you will attract people who are the same, because sick attracts sick and well attracts well. Paul saying, I realise that when I'm being authentic, I can feel negative energy from people who have never done the inner work. Yeah, it's a turn off. If people are inauthentic, it feels like, oh, ugh. It's like, oh, get that negative energy away from me. Autumn, you are all right. I realise people tend to project their insecurities on you. They do. They really do. We all project. We always project onto people. No, she's not French, as Sam saying. I'm not French, no. Far from it. I did French at school. I don't... Je m'appelle Ashley, as far as I can remember. Right, what does one do if they're addicted to everything and pretty much just a demon walking the earth? I don't think you're a demon walking the earth. If somebody's addicted to everything, that sounds like somebody who's really struggling. It sounds like somebody who's had a really fucking hard life. Addiction isn't because you're a bad person and a demon. It's because you're self-medicating either emotional or physical wounds. Look into why. So if you identify as a demon walking the earth because you're addicted to anything, I would start off by looking at why does addiction occur. Gabor Mate is a really good person. He did... Sorry, I've got a very itchy nose. I can't remember his book. Can anyone remember? Ghosts or something it's called. But look into Gabor Mate, that's a good part, because I think the best thing to do with addiction recovery is to try and break down shame, because you cannot go to war with yourself, which is what you're gonna have to do. If let's be real, if you're gonna go head to head with addiction, you will go to war, and you cannot do that if you are at war with yourself. AKA, if you are kicking yourself when you're down, you are not going to be able to do that fight. So I'd say the first thing to do, Mikey, is look into why addiction occurs and cut yourself some fucking slack, because you're not a demon. You're somebody who's probably really struggled in life, and this is helping you escape some kind of emotional wound, some kind of trauma, some undiagnosed mental health disorders. But there will be a reason, I guarantee it. Addiction does not occur out of a vacuum, and all of the research says that. So I'd start there, Mikey. Come along to my group. I'm doing a free addiction group, which starts on Sunday at 2 p.m. GMT time. Come along and just go to my website, schoolofaddiction.co.uk, send us a message and you can join my group. I'm from Great Britain, yeah, Newcastle, so north of England. NHC is saying, yes, that's sort of a British accent we have arranged. Some are better than others, yeah. It's sort of a British accent. It's, yeah. Tyrone, thank you for saying I'm an amazing person. Sham, yeah, she's from the UK. AMA, well, eventually stayed away from it. What we're talking about, addiction recovery and mental health. David is saying, took me 20 years to learn. Alcohol no longer runs my life. Grateful for 2 years sober. I wanted it more than anything else. Finally became honest with God and then myself before I was good to anyone else. I love that. In 2 years, even the worst of addictions, most people's brains are rewired after 2 years. So you've just hit a really big milestone in terms of the neuroscientific side of it. But I love that for you. Have you got any tips for anyone? I'm in rehab now, recovering alcoholic 49. I love that for you. How are you finding rehab? I say it like I love that for you. I imagine you're in the fucking thick of it. I don't know if you can do groups while you're in rehab. I don't know what it's like, because I know as a therapist, normally we say not to have somebody in therapy with two different therapists. But if you are, I'm doing a group that you're welcome to join on a Sunday if you're free and you're killing time. It's all about getting your mojo back for addiction recovery, and there's tips and tricks in there as well. Raising King, I've been single by choice for the last 10 years. Well, and I love that. Look, if that's what you want to do and you're loving it, I love that for you. It's all about just living our best lives. We only live once. I saw a quote today, which I loved, and it said, I can't remember who said it. Oh, it was from something famous as well. But it said, as soon as I realised that it's not another day and that it's actually one less day, my life changed. I think that is, I loved that. I was like, yeah, it is one less day. Like, all we're doing is getting closer to death. And that's can be really sad, and it can be very empowering. And we get to choose what we do with each day. So yeah, if you're loving life being single, I love that for you, because ultimately we'll only live once and we're always one day less. So yeah. Right, I'm actually really tired, and today I was really not wanting to come on, but I just thought I'd show it for you lot. So I'm gonna do another couple of questions and then I'm gonna go. Chris H is saying, can anxiety, depression make you go back to using drugs? Yeah, it can. But also, you know, anxiety is very normal. Anxiety is fight or flight. When we are constantly, think of anxiety like two alarm bells. So you've got the one in your brain, which is where you release noradrenaline, and you've got the one in your body, which is where you release adrenaline. And then there's also another cocktail of chemicals going on, like cortisol, etc. But if you think of it like these two alarm bells, and think of it like two faulty alarm bells, they're going off, and when one goes off, it triggers the other. So if we've got this faulty alarm system, then we're going to have constant anxiety. Now, everybody's supposed to have these alarm bells. So sometimes we think about, oh, I need to get rid of anxiety. No, we can't do that. So first of all, anxiety is something that we all deal with, and actually it's really helpful because it alerts us to perceived threats. So somebody was saying before, and I can't remember who it was it Daniel? Was saying that the more they become authentic, the more they feel weird around people who aren't. That is because your anxiety will be going off saying, this is wrong, this is weird, so we need it. But it's when we have constant anxiety and we're constantly living in this like fear of pending doom, of threat detection, that's when we can be susceptible to addiction recovery. If we're living in depression, you know, I've got bipolar, and part of that is having depression, and I haven't relapsed. But if you're constantly in depression and you're not being proactive in your depression, then you might be more susceptible to relapse. So anxiety, if we want to deal with that so that we're not susceptible to relapse, it's about calming your body, because that's one alarm bell. So calm your nervous system, and you practice that day in, day out, and go through my lives. I do topics at the beginning, and this morning I did one on that. No, yesterday morning. And then your brain, so calm your thoughts, because that's your other alarm bell. With depression, you know, I've got bipolar. I can't not have depression in my life. It's unfortunately the cards I've been dealt. But what I can do is I can be a victim in depression, or I can survive with depression. Now, a victim in depression looks like, my life's shit, I'm depressed, I might as well not be here, I'm worth nothing, I'm just gonna sit here and bed rot. That's the victim of it, poor me. Or a surviving depression looks like, okay, this is fucking shit, I feel like shit, what can I do to feel a little bit less shit, and keep doing it until I feel even less shit, and then do something different. And when I feel a little bit less shit, then do another thing. So I'm doing 2 things which makes us feel less shit, and then 3 things that makes us feel less shit, until eventually I don't feel shit. So be proactive in the depression. So yeah, and if you treat anxiety and depression like that, you're less likely to relapse. Right, don't fight or fly, I just freeze now, no choice is my choice, stuck I am. So freeze, yeah, that's a type of fight or flight. That it's all an anxiety, it's all a type of, you get fight, flight, freeze, fawn. It's all a response to fear. So when we're in freeze mode, again, there'll be windows where you're not in freeze mode, and just do something that's positive to get yourself out of it. Just tiny little things. Like when I'm saying do something, like be proactive in anxiety or depression or freeze or whatever it is, phone, what we do is we don't start off like, I'm gonna go to the gym tomorrow and I'm gonna do this tomorrow and I'm gonna change my diet. That's too much, too overwhelming. That's for later. And that's when we're feeling considerably less shit. Start off with something really small. So that might look like, instead of doom scrolling, when I know that makes us feel shit, I'm going to watch an inspiring podcast online. I'm going to watch Diary of a CEO, just something that's inspiring. Instead of, when I wake up, I'm going to make my bed. That's something that Jordan Peterson talks about. A lot of people do in the mental wellness world. But I'm going to make my bed and I'm just going to spend a little bit of time. So I've done a win. Just little tiny things, and just start off small and commit to it daily. Then add in another little thing and another little thing. And then you'll want to do a bigger thing. And then it'll snowball. And it always sounds really simple. I'm really making it sound easy. On paper it's simple, it's not easy, but it's doable. That's the thing, it is doable. Living force, I make my bed or clean or get out of my head and into my body and help for the short term. The other thing is as well, if we are in an environment which is shit, so then we've got to change that as well. And what I mean by environment is, we all live inside our heads. So if we are being dickheads to ourselves day in, day out, we've got horrible thoughts, we're bullying ourselves, we're not going to be able to get out of depression. So that's one little thing you can do, is start challenging your thoughts. Maybe go to therapy, take that thought to court, like start to reframe them. Be your own best friend. Ask yourself, would I say this to somebody who I care about? And if the answer's no, like, don't say it. Like, really just don't say it, because your brain soaks up information. So if you tell yourself you're a shit person, you're going to believe it. Tell yourself I'm a person who's struggling and I'm trying. That you're going to believe that. Same thing, two different sides of the same coin. One's positive, one's negative. One's detrimental, one's uplifting. So inside your head environment and external environment, if you are in a job where you get people are treating you like you're dirt on the bottom of the shoes, like co-workers, or you despise it, it's sucking your soul, you know, can we change jobs, or can we do something to make us feel better in that job? If all of our friends are, just to be quite frank, arseholes, like, do we need to be friends with these arseholes? Do we need to put some boundaries in so that they stop being arseholes? So, like, internal and external environment. We can do all the self-help in the world, we can do all the therapy in the world, but if we got dickheads in our life and things that we hate, which are just tearing us down every day, we're not going to get better. So we have to be realistic about it. And again, I'm making it sound easy, it's not, but just one step at a time toward having an internal environment which is great and an external one. And do things that bring you joy. I started jiu-jitsu, I fucking love it. But that might not be your thing, but try different things. I wasn't born with the knowledge that I love jiu-jitsu. I started at 36, but I did it and I love it. So try different things as well. Yeah, Riaz is saying, if the energy is off, I make it an exit. Yeah, sometimes you have to protect your peace. And not sometimes, at all costs, I would say. You have to. You really do. Aragon, self-care is so important. We can't live on emotional pain and hypertension. We can't. And, you know, self-care is some of it's just taking a stock of our life. But just it's self-care on every level. Depression means we don't enjoy anything. I'm close to rock bottom. If you want to do a one-to-one for free, like, I'm not trying to get money out of people here. I'll absolutely do that. Go to my website, schoolofaddiction.co.uk. But I'm telling you, I've dealt with severe depression from bipolar, where I have been suicidal. And so when I'm talking very matter of fact of you can pull yourself out of depression, I'm not just talking about it from a research standpoint. I'm talking about it from a personal lived experience. And I cycle in and out of depression and hypomania, mania. And I can't help having depression. But what I've learned to do now is stop it from going as bad. because I batten down the hatches with self-care. I ramp up how much I love myself and how I talk to myself and leaning into connection. And you can bring yourself out of it. I say this all the time, like, think of it like a spiral staircase. Like, everybody's always on a spiral staircase. We're either going up or we're going down, and that's our mental health. And, you know, we can't help going down and feeling shit. Everybody goes through that in life, whether it's situational depression or we diagnose depression. But what you can do is you can stop and say, right, I'm going to consciously decide to take one step, one little tiny minute step up. And you just keep going up the steps, step by step. You can get yourself out of depression, guys. It's just hard, and you might need to lean into resources. You might need to go to therapy. You know, if you're sat here thinking, well, that's not me, maybe it's because you've not done the right thing, and just keep trying to get yourself out. Really, you can do it, I promise you, but you just need to try every avenue to get you out. And what works for me might not work for you or the next person. So try everything. If you live once, everybody deserves to fight for themselves. And we can't help depression, but it is our responsibility to get ourselves out of it. It really is. And nobody else can do it for us, which is really hard truth to face, but it is truth. But I am happy to help you, like to give you some support, and maybe there's something that we can come up with that might be the missing piece. Name is saying NHS is really bad, though I don't run antidepressants. It's fucking atrocious. So I've told you about I've got bipolar, and so for me, for bipolar, I have to, this is another thing, Name, and anyone struggling with depression, a big factor in depression is what you eat. So your gut is really heavily involved in your mental health, especially things like depression. Serotonin, the majority of it is in your gut. So that's one thing that you can proactively try and do. Just introduce healthy foods into your diet, even if it's going to the shop and getting Huel, which has like all your vitamins in and stuff. Like, if you haven't got the energy to do something big, get meal preps. I have because I deal with depression with my bipolar, I get Plenty, where it hits all my micronutrients, and it's delivered, and it's not in plastic or anything, and I microwave it, and that's what I eat every day, because I know that some days I don't have the energy with depression to do that. But going back to the NHS, so I look after my bipolar holistically. I was on meds, I'm not against them, but I watch what I eat. I really love, like, really delve into self-care and self-love. I lean into connection. I've got like really healthy people around us. I've got hobbies and interests, and trying my best to sleep or not exercise. Sleep is the missing key for me. I really struggle with it, and it's huge part of bipolar. So my psychiatrist and prescriber have said you need to go to your GP and get them to refer you to a sleep clinic. And my GP was saying you need to go on mood stabilizers. I was like, I'm not. I've been on them, and I feel like I'm drugged up to the eyeballs. I don't want to go on them. And he just kept pushing it. I was furious. At the end of it, I just thought, I don't want to be on them. My psychiatrist is saying that I don't need to be on them. So can you just fucking signpost it to the goddamn sleep clinic instead of pretending to be someone you're not? It was really infuriating. So I just ended up leaving, and I ended up, like, was polite and just went and said, can I have a different GP? So maybe it's about asking for a different GP if you don't want to be on antidepressants, and seeing if there's different routes for it. But look, I'm not against, the thing with antidepressants, guys, is I'm not anti-meds. Like, I'm not anti-meds, but the thing with antidepressants, what they do is they stabilize your brain so that it's easier to like do the therapy and do the inner work and do the self-help. Because if you say we do it without antidepressants, which you can do, I've done it, but if you do it without antidepressants and you say suicidal, then it's like learning to swim while you're drowning. it's pretty difficult. If you have antidepressants, what it means is you can stabilize yourself enough to do the therapy, to do the self-help, to learn how to regulate your nervous system. So you're learning to swim in a swimming pool, not in a storm. So that's where antidepressants can be helpful. Yeah, right, as Riaz is saying, meds are necessary in certain extreme cases. Yeah, and this is the thing, this is why I'm saying I'm not anti-meds. Like, I was on mood stabilizers and antipsychotics, and I had to be. I tried to kill myself because my dog told us to. Like, I can fully hand on heart say that conversation was all in my head. And my son would have been without a mum because of it. I needed meds. But that didn't mean that I had to be on meds forever. I was on my meds, and I've learned in that time on how to stabilise myself with professionals. Like, that's very important, with professionals, through many different ways before I got to the point where I took my meds away. And I still have PRN meds, so I still take sleeping tablets. I'm trying to get to a sleep clinic so that I don't have to, but I take sleeping tablets during hypomanic episodes, which is yeah, I've probably about 4 or 5 times a year I have them. Right, anyways, I am so tired, and I'm gonna go. I'll do one more thing. So Aragon is saying root causes need dealt with as much as chemistry. Yeah, this is the problem. A lot of GPs put us on, like, NHS put you on meds, and then they just leave you to rot on them. And that's, like, as a therapist, that is not what we're taught. Now, I am not a prescriber, and some people will have to be on medications, certain medications, for the rest of our life, absolutely. But if you're not dealing with the root cause, all you're doing is masking symptoms. You know, think of it like a wound. This is how I was taught about it. If you think of it like you've got a wound and you bandage it up. So yeah, the bandage up, you might not get infected, and you might be able to not see the wound, but if the wound underneath there is too far gone, it's just going to keep being a wound, and it's going to get worse. Sometimes it's not just about wrapping it up in a bandage. We need to deal with the root cause. We need to address the wound. And I'm not talking about wounds on your arms. I'm talking about emotional wounds, guys. That's what we need to deal with, emotional wounding. We've all got it. Right, anyways, I actually need to go. So, as Sham said though, smash the like button if you haven't already. Yeah, and if anyone can give us a subscribe, it's a really free way to help me channel and help us get to the right people. If anybody, I've missed your comment, feel free to go on my website, schoolofaddiction.co.uk, and send us it, I'll answer. If anyone wants to start my free addiction group starting on Sunday, go to my website and let us know. Or if you're needing a free one-to-one, also let us know. But yeah, see you later, guys, and thanks for joining, and I'll go be live again on Wednesday at 10 a.m. and 9 p.m. It's been a pleasure. Bye. Oh, thank you, Argon. That was really nice to see. Bye.